Think about the core premise of clinical counseling. We expect vulnerable people to sit down and share their deepest traumas with an absolute stranger. This expectation completely violates our basic human instincts. Opening up to someone you don't know triggers internal threat detection systems, meaning vulnerability has to be mechanically facilitated. Many trainee counselors assume that because they are a good listener in their social lives, they will naturally be effective in a clinical setting. That assumption is dangerous. Researchers Smobby and Maddox frame the counseling environment as a process of social proofing. The client is actively looking for evidence that it is safe to proceed. From the moment they sit down, the client is running a continuous test, assessing if the person sitting across from them is actually capable of handling their pain. To pass this assessment, clinicians use microskills. These are specific, operational tools and behaviors designed to communicate competence and lower a client's defenses. These skills are built on two main pillars. First, attending behavior, which constructs the safe environment, and second, questioning, which navigates that environment. Clinical trust does not happen by accident. It is a highly engineered state. The very first active intervention in any session is physical posture. Psychologist Gerard Egan formalized the spatial architecture of trust into what is known as the SOLAR model. SOLAR is an acronym outlining the exact physical sequence used to disarm a client. This text outlines the parameters: S for squarely facing the client, and O for an open posture. L is leaning forward, demonstrating engagement. E requires natural, culturally appropriate eye contact. Finally, R is a relaxed presence, preventing the client's threat detection from mirroring counselor tension. The SOLAR model is a physical sequence that disarms a client's internal threat detection systems. Once the physical foundation is set, the clinician must maintain subtle synchronization as the client begins to speak. This relies on the 3V+B framework. This includes visual eye contact, vocal qualities and tone, verbal tracking of the story, and physical body language. Looking at this text on vocal qualities, matching tone, volume, and speech rate is essential. When a client's volume drops for a difficult issue, the counselor must match that frequency. This includes verbal underlining, placing vocal stress on key words to signal their importance. Then there is verbal tracking. This is the discipline of staying on the client's narrative path without hijacking the topic to satisfy the counselor's own curiosity. This leads directly into the phenomenon of selective attention. Counselors, often unconsciously, focus their attention on specific parts of a story that interest them personally. Clients quickly pick up on this selection. They will only expand on the topics they feel the counselor is actively tracking and emotionally ready to hear. Verbal tracking creates a cognitive mirror, proving the client is truly being followed. Within the Microskills framework, questions function as calibrated mechanical levers for narrative control. This diagram shows the core logic. Open questions facilitate process and expand the narrative. Closed prompts collapse the conversation into a specific binary terminal node. Specifically, questions starting with how invite the client to explore their feelings, while what questions typically extract facts and information. Closed questions starting with is, are, or do have limited utility. They are best reserved for focusing a scattered client or verifying specific facts. The choice of question type determines exactly how much data a client is permitted to produce. This mechanical control introduces the risk of the interrogation trap. This happens when a counselor's need for data overrides the therapeutic alliance. Excessive questioning forces the client into a defensive, reactive posture, where they feel they are being investigated rather than understood. Consider this scenario from the source materials. A client is confused about choosing a career path. Instead of exploring that emotion, the counselor interrupts with a closed question about their exam grades. Asking about grades derailed the emotional processing. The counselor failed to track the client's actual concern, inserting their own data requirement instead. But the most dangerous intervention is the why question. This comparison chart shows the damage. Asking why do you feel sad triggers a need for rational justification, creating defensiveness. The structural correction is exploratory phrasing, like what makes you feel sad, which validates the experience rather than challenging it. Why is an interrogation tool. Exploratory phrasing is a clinical tool. Microskills deployment requires a continuous feedback loop. Clinicians use constant observation skills, monitoring pupil dilation, posture shifts, and gaze aversion in real time. A client's nonverbal withdrawal directly measures a failed intervention. The session is a cybernetic loop. Intervene, observe, and adjust the architecture in real time. We return to the original paradox, extracting deep disclosure from a stranger. This visualization shows the Microskills Matrix in action. Solar physical vectors, 3V plus B vocal waves, and open question logic gates interlock to form a singular secure container. Within this engineered container, the line of disclosure flows uninterrupted. Attending provides the foundation, questioning provides the navigation. Professional counseling requires the abandonment of instinctive habits in favor of clinical rigor. Clinical empathy is a manufactured structure, the deliberate result of technical precision.